A civil war, also known as an intrastate war in polemology, is a war between organized groups within the same state or country. The aim of one side may be to take control of the country or a region, to achieve independence for a region, or to change government policies. The term is a calque of Latin bellum civil, which was used to refer to the various civil wars of the Roman Republic in the 1st century BC. Most modern civil wars involve intervention by outside powers. According to Patrick M. Regan in his book Civil Wars and Foreign Powers, about two-thirds of the 138 intrastate conflicts between the end of World War II and 2000 saw international intervention, with the United States intervening in 35 of these conflicts. A civil war is a high-intensity conflict, often involving regular armed forces, that is sustained, organized and large-scale. Civil wars may result in large numbers of casualties in the consumption of significant resources. Civil wars since the end of World War II have lasted on average just over 4 years, a dramatic rise from the 1.5-year average of the 1900 to 1944 period. While the rate of emergence of new civil wars has been relatively steady since the mid-19th century, the increasing length of those wars has resulted in increasing numbers of wars ongoing at any one time. For example, there were no more than 5 civil wars underway simultaneously in the first half of the 20th century, while there were over 20 concurrent civil wars close to the end of the Cold War. Since 1945, civil wars have resulted in the deaths of over 25 million people, as well as the forced displacement of millions more. Civil wars have further resulted in economic collapse. Somalia, Burma, Uganda and Angola are examples of nations that were considered to have had promising futures before being engulfed in civil wars. James Fearon, a scholar of civil wars at Stanford University, defines a civil war as a violent conflict within a country fought by organized groups that aim to take power at the center or in a region, or to change government policies. Anne Hironaka further specifies that one side of a civil war is the state. The intensity at which a civil disturbance becomes a civil war is contested by academics. Some political scientists define a civil war as having more than 1,000 casualties, while others further specify that at least 100 must come from each side. The correlates of war, a dataset widely used by scholars of conflict, classifies civil wars as having over 1,000 war-related casualties per year of conflict. This rate is a small fraction of the millions killed in the Second Sudanese Civil War and Cambodian Civil War, for example, but excludes several highly publicized conflicts, such as the troubles of Northern Ireland and the struggle of the African National Congress in apartheid-era South Africa. Based on the 1,000 casualties per year criterion, there were 213 civil wars from 1816 to 1997, 104 of which occurred from 1944 to 1997. If one uses the less stringent 1,000 casualties total criterion, there were over 90 civil wars between 1945 and 2007, with 20 ongoing civil wars as of 2007. The Geneva Conventions do not specifically define the term civil war. Nevertheless, they do outline the responsibilities of parties in armed conflict not of an international character. This includes civil wars. However, no specific definition of civil war is provided in the text of the conventions. Nevertheless, the International Committee of the Red Cross has sought to provide some clarification through its commentaries on the Geneva Conventions, noting that the conventions are so general, so vague, that many of the delegations feared that it might be taken to cover any act committed by force of arms. Accordingly, the commentaries provide for different conditions on which the application of the Geneva Convention would depend. The commentary, however, points out that these should not be interpreted as rigid conditions. The conditions listed by the Cross in its commentary are as follows: that it has claimed for itself the rights of a belligerent, or that it has accorded the insurgents recognition as belligerents for the purposes only of the present convention, or that the dispute has been admitted to the agenda of the Security Council or the General Assembly. of the United Nations as being a threat to international peace, a breach of the peace, or an act of aggression. That the insurgent civil authority exercises de facto authority over the population within a determinate portion of the national territory. That the armed forces act under the direction of an organized authority and are prepared to observe the ordinary laws of war. That the insurgent civil authority agrees to be bound by the provisions of the convention. According to a 2017 review study of Civil War research, there are three prominent explanations for civil war. Greed-based explanations which center on individuals' desire to maximize their profit.